在今天的节目当中，我们特别为大家邀请到是家桥驛舍行政总监曾丽娟 Corinne 来到我们节目当中，一块来欢迎她。Hey Corinne, how are you?
Good morning, Jerome. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are very happy to you are here. Yeah. So before we jump into our topic, could you please introduce yourself, or maybe tell us how you became the leader of Family Bridge?
Okay, so we have to go back more than 30 years.
30 years.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm an RN by training. So I started 32 years ago with Family Bridges, otherwise known as Oakland Chinese Community Council at the time. And I joined as a nurse for the adult day health center that they were having for chronically ill seniors. As I began to grow in that position, I began to realize there was so much potential for the organization based on mission, based on capacity. And so I said, I think this organization can go far. So I wrote a grant for just a small position, and I wrote the grant for a position called Program Development Consultant. Then I became that person, and then as time went on, I found lots of interesting initiatives that the organization should go towards, and soon I began working closely with the executive director then, and then I became the associate ED.
Yeah, you just mentioned the mission, so can you tell us about the mission of the Family Bridge, or maybe tell us a little bit history of the Family Bridge?
Okay, so in 1968, the organization was called Oakland Chinese Community Council. And it formed during the 60s, during the sort of the middle of the civil rights movement in America. We started off as a little tiny classroom in a church, got some seed money, and began doing information and referral, meaning the new immigrants who came, we counseled them how to get housing, or how to look for jobs, or how to get health care. And so that's how we blossomed, and until where we are now. In I think it was 1996, somewhere after I just started as CEO, we changed the name to Family Bridges, because we wanted to, so the core values of Family Bridges OCCC is equality, accessibility, quality of life, engagement, and connections.
So which type of a community safety plan that you have done before?
So I think in the last, during COVID was when we started the Oak Street Community Cabins, which is for the houseless. And that part of that was a public safety effort, because the merchants in Chinatown were quite upset about the houseless people in front of their stores, and there was lots of debris and garbage, and they were just up in arms. So there's a wonderful story that it's sort of took place over a long term, like maybe a year or so, or 9 months to a year. And we had two ambassadors. Their name is Sack and Reese. And they were doing their daily rounds in Chinatown very early in the morning, and they ran into a homeless fellow, and he happened to be Hispanic, so I'll call him Juan. And Juan was very angry. They approached him, and he was claiming racial slurs, anti-Asian slurs. Asians, you have to go back where you belong. Very, very angry. And our two ambassadors, Reese and Sack, they approached him very calmly. They didn't try to touch him. They didn't try to, argue with him. They just listened to him. And there wasn't any incident that they had to de-escalate, but they just listened to him and, said, looks like you're having a hard time. What's your name? Just basic introduction. And then he went off on his way. A few months later, they saw him again, and this time he was very, very angry, and he said to them, what if I had a gun? What if I had a gun? What if I shot a lot of Asian men and white men and then shot myself in the mouth? This is what he said. And he said, would that make you happy?
Oh my God. Yeah.
And so Reese and Zach were very calm. They said, actually, what would make us happy is if you were to let us help you, if we were to become friends, if we were to be able to talk so that we're not enemies and that you could reveal to us what you're going through. So that didn't do much, but it sort of set a tone. So then 3 months later, they saw him again, and this time he was almost getting into a fight with an Asian man. So our ambassadors, Zach and Reese, they talked to the Asian man and tried to calm him down first and say, look, if you get into a fight with this man, then it's only going to perpetuate the hate, and it's only going to perpetuate the whatever stereotype or anger that he has about Asians. So the Asian man said, okay, and he walked away. All right, so then they left Juan. Then a few months later, they saw him again, and this time he was different. They said, we haven't seen you in a while. He says, yeah, I've been watching you, but I haven't approached you. He says, you're really different. He says, you're different than any Asian man I've ever seen or met. So they began to talk, and Zach offered him some money to buy him some lunch. He refused. He put some money in his pocket anyway. And Juan started talking about why he's upset and what his history was and what his past was, and really opened up to Zach and Reese. And then in the end of that interaction, Zach said, I want you to come work for me. I'll give you some of my paycheck. And he bought him some clothes and he bought him some shoes. And at that point, Zach and Reese says he became their friend. So it took a while. It took a while to develop a relationship and open him up, but they were consistent in their strategy, which was to be calm, treat him like a human. And now they see him and, hi, how are you doing? He's still houseless, but they say, hi, how are you doing? And it's all good.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this story. Thank you. Let's take a break from here.
Okay.
也非常谢谢观众朋友的收看，谢谢。